Young Denise was very energetic, very ambitious, was always the top of her class. I went to 12 years of Catholic school, so from a young age, I was always saw like education as my pathway to improve my life. My parents married young, and they really stressed education. And I think in Catholic school, I just loved learning. I loved, just doing the best. I loved getting A's. And I think that prepared me for high school because I went to a Catholic high school that was college prep called Bishop Almont in La Puente. So I grew up in La Puente, which is a city that is in the San Gabriel Valley, mostly Mexican American. And like I said, like a lot of my friends that I went to school with didn't go to college. So even though I went to a college prep high school and some of them followed me from elementary, they didn't go to college. So as a young Denise was always very challenged herself, very ambitious. And I definitely didn't think that being a girl limited me. Well, I knew that I wanted to go to college, even though I didn't know anybody who went to college. And also I went to an elementary school that had full habit Carmelite nuns. So it was a very strict experience of school. And I think it was in high school that was a bit more broadened for me at Bishop Almont. So a lot of the students I went to high school with, though, in my classes, because I did a lot of college prep classes and honors classes and AP classes, that group of students, did go to college. So I think for me, I think it was just sort of, I think college was always an expectation for myself. And I remember finding out later in life, after I was in college at UC Berkeley, that my mom had me tested at 13, 14, and I could have went to college then, but she decided to keep me in high school. And I got kind of upset because I always felt like high school was a distraction because I was looking at college. So I told my mom, you mean I didn't have to be in high school? Because I felt like I was wasting time. Yeah, because I had to take religion classes for 4 years too. So yeah. So again, that little rebel was there in high school. So I always had to work. I started working my senior year of high school. I worked my way in college. I actually went from high school to community college because I couldn't afford the colleges I got into out of high school because it was all private universities. So I went to community college and I worked 30 hours a week and carried a full-time load. And then my best friend was at UC Berkeley, who also grew up in La Puente. And so I visited him and I was like, this is where I want to go. So then I went to the community college and took all the classes I need to transfer to Berkeley. And I transferred to Berkeley as a sophomore. And I also worked at Berkeley as well. So I always had 2 jobs at Berkeley. And then at Berkeley, I found my love for ethnic studies, Chicana studies, and wanted to be a professor. So I ended up here at CSUN and got my master's in Chicano studies. And I also worked when I was here too. So, I went straight through from high school, master's to doctorate, and the whole time I worked. So my career was getting a PhD to get a university position, so I had a lot of jobs along the way. When I was working my PhD program, I was an academic counselor. I was also an administrative assistant for the president's office at Cal Poly Pomona for affirmative action. So I had, professional jobs along the way that I was able to get through my experience and through having a bachelor's and a master's. I don't know. I think young Denise, keep pushing forward. I think I always did follow my path and intuitively. I didn't know there was such thing as intuition, but I guess you call it your gut. So I always followed a path, whatever I listened to, what I was feeling I should be, even though sometimes there were people that would tell me, don't do that, or you can't do that. So I think I'm still that person. And it's an interesting question to ask me of who is young Denise, because the more I think about it, I've always been this way. I'm like, young Denise is still in me.
I love to hear that.
No, because I think it's, I think we can always grow and change, and obviously there's growth and change, but when you think about that inner person of who you are and that fight, that spirit, that strength, that was in young Denise. Yeah, and it's still here.
Can we go back to you working through your degree and master's.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share with us what your salary range was?
Yeah. So, when I started working, that was like the 90s, the mid 90s. So it's a whole other different world on what we were surviving on. So, like, I think my first paid job at Cal Poly Pomona and that administrative assistant, it was probably in the high 30s, And so in that range, and when I got hired at CSUN, this was in 2002, so that's from 95 to 2002. I think it was maybe the low 50s. So that's like crazy, like to what we're getting paid now. But that was like late 90s, early 2000s. And I had professional jobs, and then I also was like full-time lecturing when I was in my PhD program. So I worked full-time at Cal Poly Pomona as academic counselor, and I took a full load of my PhD. I don't know how I did it, but again, I was in my 20s, so I had a lot of energy.